I would say, though, the biggest talk of the race yesterday, maybe of the year, maybe going back to Martinsville last year, maybe going back even further than that.
You're talking about the DGAF tour?
Don't give a fuck tour is rolling on, man. Ross Chastain is in the house, and I'm going to pay this guy probably the biggest compliment he's ever been paid in his career. When I look back at Dover and I say, what race car drivers were good at Dover? Here's who comes to mind. Tony Stewart, Matt Kenseth, Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards. Like, we're talking all-star, Hall of Fame, all champions except for Carl, obviously. Kyle Busch. I mean, we're talking legends in this sport. We're good at Dover. And I'm talking about concrete Dover. I'm not talking about asphalt Dover. Ross Chastain has entered this conversation. Ross Chastain is leading the points. Ross Chastain won a stage yesterday. Ross Chastain is arguably the most said word name in our sport right now. He is the new Kyle Busch.
I think that's a stretch a little bit, but he's definitely, a lot of it's not because he is winning. There's a lot of scenarios that he's creating that are, but I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if they're talking about you, whether you're winning a race or you're going 17 wide in a turn one at Coda and causing a wreck.
Or riding a wall at Martinsville.
Or riding a wall. He always seems to find his way into the conversation, whether it's good, bad, or we're talking about him right now. He didn't even win.
I try to get my son to do one thing in sports, and it's have a really, really, really bad short-term memory. Because if you screw up, it's hard to move forward if you focus on that screw up. If you hit a bad golf shot and you carry that to the next hole, you're done. If you miss a putt, you have a bad drive, you're mentally screwed, right? And I try to teach Bodie all the time, when you swing and miss a baseball, worry about the next swing, not the last one. Ross Chastain can screw up somebody's day in a heartbeat and mentally focus forward as good as any driver I've ever seen.
Well, he said sorry. He said sorry.
He said it a few times already.
But you can't coach how sorry he's not.
I mean, the day Danny's car got back in, she said sorry. That was it.
I'm just telling you, I want my kid to have the same short-term memory loss that Ross Chastain has in sports, because it's important to being great.
Drivers go through this a lot. You'll have a run every race where your car is just off a little bit, and that's where it's a lot of times them drivers, they go off a cliff, and that's where you gotta, Ross does a really good job of keeping in the game even after something bad happens like that, or a bad pit stop, anything. He needed that, and that's huge. I mean, Jimmy Johnson's probably one of the most mentally strong guys that I've ever met.
For sure.
He used to pit road penalty, something, spin out by himself. He spun out a lot by himself, but like 50 laps later, he's right back in the same spot where he was. It's guys can refocus like that, but Ross definitely does a good job of seeing the big picture at the end.
Best thing to happen to him, and I mean, I hate to say this about a guy that can't defend himself sitting here with us, but Chip Ganassi Racing had some amazing drivers. You agree with that?
I mean, you think?
I mean,
amazing drivers.
Yeah. Larson.
He had Larson. He had Martin Truex. He had some amazing drivers.
He
had
Juan still Montoya, have Larson.
Juan Montoya, Jamie McMurray. He had some amazing stock car drivers.
Yeah.
He didn't really ever do shit with it. They didn't ever really win a lot of races.
Dominant. They were never.
Nah, man. Look at what Ross Chastain is in a terrible contract in terms of the financial side of it, and he ends up driving that car. He inherited that ride because Chip couldn't find anybody else to do it at a decent price. Ross was his decent price guy. So Ross was under contract. He made Ross get in the Cup car, and Ross is sitting there probably not in an ideal situation. He doesn't know that yet.
No.
But he's not in I mean, Chip Ganassi let him loose the minute DC Solar, that whole DC Solar thing blew up. Chip Ganassi didn't pick Ross Chastain up and put him in the Xfinity car. He ended up going back to Johnny Davis, still under contract with Chip Ganassi while he was there, and colleague as well. But long story short, the best thing to ever happen to Ross Chastain's Cup career, and probably career ever, is Justin Marks. If Justin doesn't come in and buy Trackhouse, there's no way you can make me believe that Daniel Suarez, if he were at Chip Ganassi Racing, would be as fast as he is and would have won a race. I ain't buying it.
Continuing on the topic of our favorite topic of the day, Brennan Poole says Ross Chastain, quote, probably needs to get his butt whooped after contact with the one that ended Poole's day. Ross said after the race, he owes Poole a big apology and a bit more. Spot on, spot off. TJ.
I'm spot off. I mean, just unnecessary, really. It took out Larson too. I mean, it was right in front of us. I mean, we were right behind Larson, and just unnecessary, that part of the race. And now, I mean, an apology doesn't give the guy his points back, doesn't give the guy a race back in his career, doesn't give him the car that's destroyed back. It doesn't give the 5 guys their car back. You know what I mean?
Or Brennan, who doesn't necessarily have a
that's what
top
I'm saying.
ride.
Brennan lost that race.
I tell you what else Brennan don't have: a good hairdresser. His hair looks horrible. It looks like, remember when you used to put sun in on your hair as a kid?
Yeah. Did you see Noah's hair? We gonna talk about hair?
I think that was a bet, though.
Noah's hair, holy cow, he looked Amish. If he'd had one of them little beards and the little trousers on with the little buttons right here above his collarbone, he'd have been like the perfect Amish kid.
Can we
That
say
bowling
that?
movie.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm spot on for Brendan making this comment. If you're gonna go whoop somebody's ass, go.
Well,
whoop it.
that's what I was getting at. Okay, probably. I mean, if you're gonna do it,
He didn't say he needs to do it. He said somebody
you're the one
needs
talking.
to.
Well,
you're the one with the wrecked car.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. There's a bunch of I noticed yesterday the amount of pansies on Twitter was at an all-time record high, and this is a pansy.
does that
comment.
include you?
I'm pretty sure I'm not a pansy. When you look at, here's the Brendan Poole thing. I'm spot on for him saying somebody needs to whoop his butt or he needs his butt whooped. I'm spot on for Danielle Trotta. She is married to Robbie Benton. Robbie Benton is a GM kind of guy over at Rick Ware Racing, a guy I've known a long time. I have
Really
a ton
good
of
guy.
respect for. And she was burning Ross to the ground on the Twitter, and I am spot on, and I am here for it.
Wow, I didn't know.
Well, she's also friends with them too. So, and she sees the kind of work that they put in. People who are fighting to get sponsorships for just even one race. I mean, this is their one race to be able to
Her
prove.
Twitter was on fire.
So Brendan's in a position where he has very limited opportunity, and he's just trying to go out there, have a solid, quiet day, and maybe get another opportunity, and that might lead to something else. Well, this just completely ended his opportunity. So
I'll say it, man. Listen, Ross screwed up, and Ross took out
did.
Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson later impeded Ross's path at one point during the race to help Martin Truex go on to win. I'm not saying that's why he won, because obviously they had a restart pit strategy played out and all those other things. But at some point, TJ has said it on here many times that Ross doesn't believe anybody is going to do anything to him. And until they do, he's not going to stop. There was a clip of Tony Stewart talking about, Dale Sr., Rusty Wallace, Dale Jarrett, like all those guys. If you messed with them, I saw Dale Jarrett get wrecked by Ryan Newman at Bristol. I went down to Bob, and I said, did he say anything? Bob said, nope. I said, he's going to wreck the dog food out of this guy. Guess what happened when Ryan Newman come back around? He wrecked the ever-living dog shit out of him. And guess what Ryan Newman won't do anymore? He won't wreck Dale Jarrett. Well, until somebody does that, because nobody's retaliated yet.
I mean, technically Denny did,
No,
but it
that's
didn't really work
lame.
out too well.
That is lame. Denny wrecked himself as much as he wrecked Ross. That was a lame excuse of
The
wrecking
idea
somebody.
was there.
yeah, I agree. That was that he took himself out with it. So that doesn't.
That's not an eye for an eye.
No,
I think Ross has 5 eyes and Denny has none as of right now, if we're keeping score.
if Freddie was here, he'd be. Denny's great.
Denny is great. I love Denny. Listen, I just think it's crazy how much Ross Chastain has entered the conversation is in this sport right now. There's nobody talked about more than he is.
Ross left with what he finished P2.
P2,
Hey.
stage win.
I mean, solid day for Ross.
Can I ask a quick question?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Do you think drivers are afraid to retaliate after Denny tried to and got penalized for it?
I think they're afraid of Ross. I think they're afraid if they get him back, he's just going to get them again. Like I think the don't give a tour Andrew is real. Like, I mean, why hasn't somebody paid him back? How many people are mad at him? 5, 6?
I think the whole garage at
Yeah, I was
this
going to
point.
say.
I think there was a point when his own teammate was mad
Yet
at him.
he's leading the points.
Yeah.
He's contending to win races.
I think that, to your point, Andrew, there's a lot more at stake if they were to retaliate.
Is this guy the new Dale Earnhardt in terms of how he races? Are people intimidated by Ross Chastain? Is that a fair question? Why aren't they doing anything back
I don't
to
know
him?
that they're intimidated by him. I
What
don't
are
think,
they?
I don't think he does it like, oh, I just want to wreck this person. I think he truly just wants to get to the front and doesn't care who's in his way.
So did Dale Earnhardt. He meant to rattle his cage. He said,
I
Look,
guess.
man, the guys lead the points, contending for wins.
I know
doing
people are going to get
something
mad
right.
going, Ross Chastain ain't Dale Earnhardt. No I know that.
But that train's shifting gears. I can tell you that.
Just making a point.